have Denise. She is one of our new moms. So Denise, I want to ask you just a couple questions to kind of get people familiar with your experience with doulas. And the first thing I want to ask you is, how were you introduced to BirthWise Doula Services?
So I was introduced through my sister in Minnesota, who was really worried that I was by myself in Georgia, trying to give birth in a place where, it's not a great place to be Black and a mom in general. So she was really worried about the rate of really mortality for Black women giving birth. She was like, you've got to be with a Black doctor, and I'm going to need you to have a Black doula. So that's basically how it started. She asked a couple people in Minnesota, a couple doulas there, who referred me to Evonna, my doula, who you are mentoring. And that's pretty much how I got introduced.
Did you take any of the BirthWise Childbirth Education classes?
I did, and you were part of them. So I took the one with the partner. I forgot how it was called. Another one that was about what's it called? Postpartum something. Sorry, I forget all the names, but it was about postpartum. The mom mostly, and then about taking care of baby after the birth. Those were the 3 classes that I was a part of.
Do you think taking childbirth education helped you at all?
It did. Sometimes it freaked me out. I heard terms that just scared me a lot. But I think it prepared me to have a certain mindset, really, going into childbirth and just having baby afterwards. I know one of the things that I remember was the postpartum depression, the baby blues, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. And when I went through it, at first I was freaking out. But later on I was like, wait a minute, we did talk about this. This is normal. I'm not abnormal. Everything's okay. I just need to talk to somebody about it. There's no shame about it. It happens, and it doesn't have to stay that way. So let me just contact someone and it'll be fine. Let's give it some time. And that was really, it just felt empowering going through those classes. Not at the moment, I'm not gonna lie, they were not the most exciting at the moment, but as things were progressing, they were really important. I would just have like flashes of things that have been said during the classes. And yeah, they were important in that way for me afterwards. Yeah. I wish I had paid more attention though.
Listen, if you retain like 25%, we're doing good. So, there's something that everybody wants to know, and that is your birth story. Would you share your birth story?
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. So I was a high-risk pregnancy because previous to being pregnant, I had blood clots, pulmonary embolism, so blood clots in the lungs. That had been taken care of, but the problem is those embolisms, they were due to an abnormal level of hormones, basically. And as we know, when you are pregnant, your level of hormones changes dramatically. And at first, the level of hormones were unbalanced because of contraception pills that I was taking. And then because of the pregnancy, obviously I was at risk again. So I had the doctors that I needed to have and whatever, but I was still very worried that I just wasn't going to make it. I had the doula because I was high risk also. So my birth story, I don't even know where to start because I was high risk. I saw those doctors, they were kind of scaring me a little bit, saying, your baby is like this, your baby is like that, and you're high risk and you have to do this and that. I had to do the, those shots every day. I forgot what it's called.
Heparin?
Heparin, yeah. It's it's basically heparin. So I had to do those every day. That was already kind of a challenge on its own because I hate injecting myself. I hate injections, and injecting myself was already a thing that I didn't want to do. And then on top of that, I had baby who was supposedly an abnormal weight. At least that's what they had told me. So I thought, okay, this baby is so big, it's gonna just, I don't know, destroy everything in me. And I got to a point where the doctor was worried about me because they wanted me to give birth at a certain time. And that time frame was coming very quickly. So I basically had 2 weeks left to give birth, and I had no contractions, nothing happening. So they wanted to induce me. When I heard inducing, I was like, oh, they're trying to give me a whole bunch of medication and stuff that's going to go to the baby. I don't want this. So I contacted my doula again, Evonna. We went through different things. Eventually, I started doing, what's it called? The midwife's brew. When I took the midwife's brew, that same night, I had contractions. When I had the contractions, it was very painful, but at the same time, I had the techniques of breathing from Evonna that really helped. And then the contractions stopped, and nothing happened for another probably 3 days. At that point, that's when we contacted you, Tony, and you helped us to figure out what went bad, what went wrong, and what I should do from there. You were like, as soon as you saw me, you're like, okay, you need to chill. You are way too tense. You need to just relax and forget about whatever issue is going on, whatever the doctors had said. We just need you to be in a relaxed state. You explained everything to me that was going on with my body, and why the contractions have stopped, why we want them to pick up. Husband was there, my sister was there. We all took notes of things you were saying. It was fun. And then that's, I think the day after, I took again the midwife's brew, followed your directions, walked a lot, just chilled, just tried to make me feel comfortable, really. And that's when the contractions picked up and really went super strong to me, at least. I had the contractions, lost a lot of, how you say, when you lose your water?
Oh, your water broke.
Oh, yeah, my water broke. That's when I was like, okay, maybe we need to go to the hospital. Maybe not. I don't know. We're going to call the doula again. So we called the doula again. She was like, okay, what's going on? How fast are the contractions? How often and all that? And we were like, okay, we're not ready to go to the hospital yet. We had the plan. It was to avoid going to the hospital too early. We're going to follow that plan. We're going to do as much as we can at home. And I was like, okay, I'm hurt, but we got this. I trust the doulas. It's going to be okay. So we stayed home as much as we could. And then eventually it just felt too painful to me. And everybody, not everybody, but some people were pressuring me to go to the hospital because I was high risk. They were like, okay, well, I guess this is the time, let's go. Went to the hospital. I was not exactly ready because I was just, I think, 2 centimeters dilated. I wanted to go back home, but they wouldn't let me because I was high risk. So I should have listened to my doula when she said I wasn't exactly ready, but it's okay. So we were at the hospital. It is what it is. We have to stay. And they gave me all the IVs and stuff because I was dehydrated. They just got me hooked on different kind of machines. And from there, they gave me some time to try to dilate, and I just wasn't dilating fast enough. So they gave me a whole bunch of Pitocin. At first, I was told that I would take maybe 2 doses of Pitocin, up to 4, and it wouldn't take that long. I ended up with 20 doses of Pitocin the first day, and the second day, 24, which was obviously unexpected because it's way far from the 2 or 4 doses that that were suggested in the beginning. And Pitocin was supposed to help me really have more contractions, dilate me more. And yeah, so 50 hours later, I was told that I cannot keep going like this. I really need to just go for a C-section. And I wasn't expecting a C-section at first, or rather, I didn't want a C-section at first. But it went well. I mean, even though I had a C-section after 50 hours of labor, I'm really happy with the way it went. It's kind of weird to say, but having everybody with me, having the doulas communicating with one another, even though you were at distance, you really, really helped throughout the labor, telling me how to position myself, even though I didn't listen to you the first day. The second day, it really did help, because if I hadn't listened to you, I probably wouldn't dilate at all. I mean, the first day when I didn't listen to you, I went from 1 or 2 of dilation to, I think, 3 or 4. And as soon as I started listening to you, it really picked up. So if I had listened to you in the beginning, I would have given birth the first day, and naturally. I went through labor for so long, and it was painful. But as soon as I started really listening to you guys and really taking in the pain, at first I had no idea what you guys were talking about. Like, what do you mean I have to accept pain? I don't understand this concept.
Well, we didn't say accept pain. We said you have to relax, and we tried to get you to focus. Now, to be fair, it was because you didn't want pain medicine and or an epidural, and we're perfectly fine with that. We're perfectly fine with your decision. We are going to help you the best way we can so that you are happy.
That is true. I really didn't want the epidural. I didn't want any type of pain medication while in labor, while the baby was with me, in me.
Yeah.
But it went well. I mean, considering that I didn't take the epidural until pretty much time for the C-section,
yeah,
I think I did great with you.
You did.
It really is thanks to you guys. My sister was there, husband was there also, but they wouldn't have been able to calm me down the way they did if they hadn't taken the time to be with you guys, if we hadn't talked to you together. It was really a teamwork from beginning to end.
So after all of that, I'm curious, would you tell me how you felt your postpartum went, your first trimester went?
Yeah, it was also a journey. So just when you think, I have a baby, he's all good, he's doing great, he's doing all the crying and the sleeping that he needs to do. And I started breastfeeding right away, per doctor's advice, obviously. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just tried. We had the classes with you also that kind of helped. I would just kind of remember a few things. And I was like, during the classes, they and other women also say that breastfeeding is hard, and I don't see that. Like, it's super easy. Baby is just finding my nipple, and it's a breeze, really. Third day of breastfeeding, it just went completely it went awry. I started having an infection. From there, I just kept pushing and pushing and trying to breastfeed. At some point, I just couldn't anymore because the infection was bad. I started bleeding. It was a whole mess. After that, I decided to just give him the bottle. And when I gave him the bottle, even at the hospital, I was not feeling great about it. I wanted to breastfeed again. I wanted to try again. So I was just like trying to heal myself in order to go back to breastfeeding eventually. We went home. I still wasn't able to breastfeed. I just started pumping. I was like, okay, if I'm not able to put him on the breast, it is what it is. But at least I want him to have the milk. So I started pumping all the time, all day, every day. And it hurt. I didn't understand that, but it just hurt. The machine hurts, the baby hurts. There was like no good way to give my milk to baby. I was really confused. And from there, it just got worse because eventually I got blocked duct. And that's when I started contacting you, just because it was so bad. I was like, okay, I need to contact the doula again. And when I called you, we showed you what was happening. I showed you my breast, and you're like, okay, that looks like a blocked duct. And you got to be careful because next thing you know, you could get a mastitis. So you don't want this to happen. You need to take care of it right away. I tried doing certain things. I needed to feed baby directly, but it was just, my infection was just so bad. I was not into this idea at all. So I didn't listen.
And you were referred to lactation. I did ask you to get a lactation.
Yes. I was going through lactation also. She was trying to help me, but she wasn't as helpful as I would have hoped. I'm not sure what was missing exactly, but I didn't get as much help from her, seeing her 6 weeks as I had from you in 1 hour. So what had happened is that I was seeing the lactation consultant. She was trying to help me figure out how to feed baby, how to put him in certain positions. It was just hurting. It was bad all the time. And he was having some issues too. So I was having issues with the pumping. And I was having the blocked duct that were hurting, but not too bad. And the next thing was obviously mastitis if I don't take care of it. And I had mastitis. At first, it was, I don't even know how it really started. The blocked duct was hurting. I saw like little ducts that was like popping out of my skin. It was really odd to look at. It was swollen. It was just a whole thing. And then I went to see a doctor on top of seeing you. The doctor was like, well, it looks like a beginning of mastitis. You might want to do something now and just take medication. From there, I was like, I don't want medication. So let me contact Tony again, tell her what's happening. And you did your little research. You told me exactly what to do. you told me if it's the beginning of mastitis, we're gonna, actually in the beginning, I'm not too sure what happened, but very quickly that same day, I had full on mastitis, as in fever, that I couldn't reduce. I had the pain, I had the ache, the body aches were the worst for me. It was like having COVID again. It was horrible. And I had to take care of baby at the same time. Yeah. Just the whole mess. And that night that I got the fever-like symptoms, you were contacting husband, telling him how to take care of me, how to force me to take certain medication at a certain time, tell him to put me in the cold water, make sure that I was doing the stuff you were saying, because I have a tendency to not listen to you or anyone really. And yeah, in like 1 hour, the fever just dropped dramatically and I started feeling better. And I didn't have to take the medications that they prescribed at all. So that was great. First trimester was a mess, but it would have been much, much worse if it wasn't with you.
Now, Denise, don't you tell those people that I don't tell you to contact your doctor. I always tell you to contact
Never. You did say if your fever keeps on rising, you need to go to the hospital. You don't even contact me, just go straight to the emergency unit and stuff. And you did tell me to go to my doctor a couple of times because you cannot give medical advice, which I understand. What? Your advice outside of medical advice were really good. Like I took some homeopathic stuff. And it worked out. It was great because I did say, I don't want to take medication. What's the next best thing that I can do?
That's right.
And homeopathic was the way, and it worked out. And the next person who will have mastitis, I know exactly what to prescribe to them. I am not a doctor. However,
you have some experience.
I do have some experience.
Yeah. That is what a doula is. We take a culmination of all our knowledge and we try to share it with you, give you the best possible practices and be there to advise you and make sure that you don't go to a point to where you're critical and support your decision, right? We never want to take away your right to decide what is best for you. Now, you also had to have me call you all night that night you had that fever.
Literally that night, it was like midnight and stuff, and you were still on the phone with me. Yeah.
While we were waiting on their doctor to call back and just to find out, what you could take and to make sure you're in the best possible place. And we ended up, we talk about this as doulas, and I do want to say this about your story is that I know that a lot of what went well was that you trusted me. We had to work on the latch a lot, and we did that virtually, and we talked about it and we went over it. And it takes support. I just want to ask one last question, just a small one. If you could tell anyone about working with me and working with BirthWise, and specifically what kind of doula I am, how would you describe it?
First of all, don't make the mistake that I made. The first mistake was to contact you guys way too late. Second of all, because like the rapport is really important. Like, just like you said, because I trusted you in the end, I started doing things your way. I started contacting you more. I knew what you were capable of doing, and that's what made me comfortable enough to contact you every time I had issues, and before I had issues also. So I would say, yeah, contact you early, and maybe in the first trimester, if people can, to build that rapport with you and have that trust the day of and the days after, because fourth trimester was definitely a thing. Second thing, actually listen to you when you talk, because you do know what you're talking about. And doctors, obviously, they do their job. They mostly go, they go by what they know, what they've learned at medical school. But it's not always accurate, and it's always based on some studies. It's not based on you and who you are. They don't necessarily take the time to know you like that, the way doulas do.